welcome to the Internet of Senses Hearing podcast. My name is Tyler Heaton. I am a sound designer and researcher in the Spatial Technologies Applied Research and Training Center at Lethbridge College, where I specialize in the implementation of spatial media and technology in immersive experience design. Today is our second hearing podcast, and we are pleased to be joined by Idan Meir about his vision for the accessible world and RightHear, a game-changing app for people facing spatial orientation challenges. Idan is an entrepreneur based in Rockville, Maryland, with a passion for making the world more accessible. As CEO and co-founder of RightHear, a Techstars portfolio company, Meir has helped develop an advanced accessibility solution that empowers people with visual impairments to navigate public spaces independently. Originally from Israel, and having been molded by the can-do attitude of the startup nation, Idan is driven by the motto, aim for the moon, if you miss, you might hit a star. And he continues to drive RightHear forward in its mission to make the world more accessible, one building at a time. Idan, thank you for joining us today.
My very, very pleasure. Thank you for having me, Tyler.
We're going to jump right in. Really excited to hear about RightHear and this innovative approach to orientation. Starting off, what inspired you to create this solution? What was your motivation?
Yeah, so thank you for the invitation being here. I'm a bit excited. So I think it was about 6 years ago when we started RightHear, Gil and myself. Gil is a good friend of mine. RightHear's co-founder and CTO. We started about 6 years ago. I need to say this first as to introduce myself. I have horrible orientation skills. I'm that type of person that always get lost. This friend where when you go to travel somewhere, it's obvious that you need to turn right, but he's turning left, although you've been there just an hour ago. So that's me. I have really, really horrible orientation skills. And at the time we were thinking, well, if we'll be able to solve orientation challenges to those that have most severe orientation challenges, ultimately everyone would be able to go anywhere independently, freely, with ease. At the time, my grandfather turned to be blind, so that kind of influenced thinking about this audience unconsciously, and we started to talk about it with people from the community, and the reactions was amazing, really amazing about how big the need is. I was pretty sure that it might have already been solved for the blind visually impaired community. We've seen Braille signs many places we go, so I thought that's probably the solution. Soon to realize, and that's usually the two facts that I always share when talking about RightHear, so I'm happy to share it here with the audience as well. One is that really no matter where you go in the country, you can find Braille signs. Right, Taylor? I mean, it doesn't matter here in Maryland or if it's in Chicago or really, it's all across the country. It doesn't matter if it's a small restaurant or if it's a big airport, if it's a hospital or if it's a museum. They are really there everywhere we go, usually in elevators, public restrooms, etc. So there are according to our research, over 100 million Braille signs. So that's the first fact. The other fact is that over 90%, even 95% out of the blind community cannot read Braille at all. And that was the point where hold on, what? That's a surprising fact that a lot of time when I still share it with people, they're really? Is that right? I had no idea. And for the 5-10% who can read Braille, finding the signs, right, is a challenge by itself. Because, okay, assuming you know to read it, you need to know where the sign is. And in the past 3 years, specifically since COVID-19, even if you know to read Braille, and even if you've been lucky to find the sign, you do not necessarily want to touch it anymore. It's a public surface. Mm-hmm. So today is even clearer to me than it was when we started that having an audio format of signage is just needed. It's needed not just for the blind and visually impaired community. It's needed for all of us. And I say all of us because sometimes it could be just a language barrier. Right? You might see the sign, but you cannot necessarily understand it because you don't speak the language. Or you know what? It could be a cognitive disability where you might see the sign, but you have, challenges with reading, as a dyslexia or something like that, or other cognitive disabilities that hold you from actually consuming the information that is all around us every day, all day long, wherever we go. Having it in audio format, in your own language, in your own pace, that's, I think, what drives us. That's what still drives us today. It's ultimately providing people with a much higher level of independence. Independence is a core value in my life. I'm a big believer in that and the importance of that. I think it's people's right It's people's right to feel that independence. And one of our first users, Tali, which I always shout out to her in interviews, is she used to call it's a sense of freedom. Talking about senses here, the podcast. So I love this term for what it gives her. It's a sense of freedom, knowing that you can do it by yourself. So that's what this is the way.